Carthage must be destroyed. Continuing on with the Lion Rampant walkthrough here, we are going to look at understanding unit profiles. And in this part of the walkthrough, I'm not going to have any models out because I think we're just going to be looking at the book itself. Just to give you a little picture here, I really like these knights here that Fireforge has done up. These are some elite cavalry that you could use in the game if you like that style. Now, they might have a bit of a fantasy vibe to them because you can see some horns and stuff in the background. But you know what? Some fantasy models for Lion Rampant will work out too, as long as, you know, they're all human and they're all knights and stuff like that. You could easily use these as elite cavalry, right? Anyway, let's talk about understanding unit profiles. And before I look at that, I will actually show you a profile right on the next page here. This says it's heavy infantry, and you'll see those numbers there. It has models per unit. And that's going to be obvious because it means, you know, how many models are in the unit itself. And then there's points. So if you're familiar with games, of course, you're going to know that, you know, models per unit is how many models are in there, and the points is how much it costs, right? Now, of course, there's other numbers on here. You see attack and attack value. So, like, what's the difference between those two? If you don't know the game, you might not know. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at understanding unit profiles, right? So every 11 troop types has its own unit profile, it says here, and it shows its strengths and weaknesses. So let's just look through these here and discuss them quickly. So they're all going to have a name, like in the instance there it said heavy infantry, right? Models per unit. So units usually have 6 to 12 models. Now here's where the differences are between attack and attack value, because remember in the last walkthrough video we were talking about either rolling 2 dice for tests or rolling 1 dice for the individual model to see the results. And here you can see, using my paint covered thumb there, you can see here that it says the attack roll needs 2 dice to carry out an attack order. Okay, so when we're going to look at these first few here, it says attack, move, and shoot. And of course courage here. These 4 here are your tests, okay? So you'll need 2 dice to see if an attack order is passed, and then they'll carry it out. 2 to see if you even want to move. You need 2 to do a shoot order, and it says not all units can shoot, right? Heavy infantry don't have a shoot value. You have a courage value on here that says, you know, we'll talk about that later, but you got to roll 2 dice to be calm and carry on, as it says. So basically, you have tests and you're rolling 2 dice. And when you look at the units profiles here, you'll see that in order to actually pass for this heavy infantry unit here, to make an attack order, they're going to need a roll on 2 dice of 6 or plus. They want to move, they're going to need 5 and up. And then on courage here, it's going to say 4 and up. So those are the values you need to roll on 2 dice to actually finish an order, if you're, you know, or a test in the case it's courage. Notice they don't have a shoot value because they're not, you know, they're not crossbow and they're not archers, they don't have it. So armor says the armor value is the number of hits needed to remove 1 model from this unit, okay? And here you can see that, okay, heavy infantry, that you'd expect them to have some decent armor. It says armor 3. So later when we're looking at the value to actually hit folks, you're going to have to score 3 hits to actually kill one of the guys in a heavy infantry unit. But we'll look more at that later. So, all right, I just adjusted my book there so we can look at the next page here. We talked about the points, of course. That's I think that's pretty obvious. You just talk about, or it just says how much your unit costs. So in the case of a heavy infantry unit here, it's 4 points. So in a warband, if you have a 24-point warband, you could field 6 of these units, right? 6 by 4 is 24. So let's look at some other things here. Now, these next 2 values here, unlike the attack value and earlier where you need 2 dice, these are only using 1 die. Now this might not be as obvious when you first look at it. Like if you've never played the book before or you never played the game before and you look at the attack value and defense value, you might be thinking like, okay, well, attacks, he hits on a 5 and up, and then when he rolls a defense value there, that's what he defends with. Actually, if you look at the rules here, it's a little different than what you think here. So an attack value here says it's the result needed on a dice to hit an enemy when you're carrying out an attack. So when you give it an attack order and you go in to hit someone, that's the result you need. So in the case of these heavy infantry here, you got to roll a 5 or higher to be able to score a hit when you're attacking. But notice here in the defense value, it says that this is the result you need on one dice to hit an enemy when being attacked. You're not actually defending yourself with these values. You're kind of attacking back. Does that make sense? Right? So it's not where you think it's like this is an attack value to compare with a defense value. No, instead, they're both attacking. So whoever performs the attack, I guess the attack, let's just call it an attack order, will look at the attack value, but the person taking the attack uses the defense value to see if they hit. So here, heavy infantry are actually better on the defensive because they get a higher, they have more of a chance to get a 4 and up than a 5 and up on the defense. So heavy infantry work better in a defensive position than attacking. So that's something to keep in mind when you look at unit profiles, right? And then of course you compare their armor. And, you know, if a heavy infantry unit was attacking a heavy infantry unit, then the attacking heavy infantry unit would have to roll 5 and up and score 3 hits here to get the armor down, right? To actually take a wound off here. But the defender only needs a 4 and up for hitting. So the defender, in this case, might actually have a better time than the attacking heavy infantry. And then the shoot value is the same kind of thing, except you're using... you got to see the result to actually hit with shooting. And we'll look at some other unit profiles, but heavy infantry, they don't have a shoot value. Maximum movement here is how many inches a model in this unit can move during the move order. So you need to roll, for the heavy infantry here, you'd have to roll 2 dice, get 5 or higher, and then you'd be able to move 6 inches, as it says here, right? And then there's special rules. And I'll go through special rules later. I think there's a section in the book that talks about them. And here it says we can look at mustering your warband on page 64, and we can look at some different infantry, but lots of units have different special rules. Now, why don't we do that here really quick? Why don't we flip through and just take another look at some, see some nice art there. Let's quickly take a look at mustering the warband here. Now, it's not exactly the spot we want to look. We want to look at, here we go. Let's just look at a couple here. We're going to go through this in more detail, but just to give you guys an idea about units and profiles here. I wanted to show you guys this unit profile here without getting into any special rules. But here, to show you a little difference from the heavy infantry we were looking at, these are elite cavalry. And now you see that they only have 6 models per unit, right? I was showing you guys some elite cavalry in the last video there with my knights. Here, their attack order, that's right, roll on 2 dice and see if you get an attack order, is 5 and up. So these guys have a good value for attacking. And if they are able to score that, they're able to move 10 inches into the enemy, right? And be able to hit them. But you'll notice on just a simple move order, it's a little harder to just move them. They actually require a higher move just to get closer to the enemy. Whereas if they're doing an attack, it's easier on the charge, right? So you'll notice that in different unit profiles, that the profiles have different values, different strengths and weaknesses. And in this case, it's easy to charge in with the elite cavalry, but they're a little more, how would you say, a little more prancy, I guess, on the go. I guess they think they're elite and they're, they're all cool and they're like, we're not gonna, we can take anyone. They kind of like lag behind a bit. I guess they're too arrogant is what I'm trying to say. Their courage value, okay, I think is quite high, 3 and up, because of course they're elite cavalry. It's going to be hard to fail that. Their armor is also quite high, so you have to score 4 hits against these guys to actually hurt them. Now, the points are 6, because, they're good units. It's a little more expensive. But if you look at their attack value, on the attack, they're quite deadly, 3 and up, right? So when they're charging in and fighting, they're going to be having a 3 and up value to hit on individual dice. But when they're being attacked, their defense value to hit back is a little lower. So if you want to fight elite cavalry, you should try and attack them if your attack value is better than their defense value, I think. But of course, there's different situations and terrain we'll talk about later. Again, movement value there. And then we have special rules here, which are wild charge and counter charge. We'll look at that a bit later as well. Let's look at elite infantry here just to compare again. You'll notice here elite infantry, unlike elite cavalry, they have the same attack and move order value. So they can attack and move just as efficiently, whereas elite cavalry can't move as well. Courage and armor is the same, but here they have a better attack value and a better defense value. So you can see that elite infantry are a bit more stable, I would say, when it comes to moving and attacking and defending, where elite cavalry are really good on punching home, but maybe they're not so good at taking attacks or just simply moving towards the enemy, right? So elite infantry are tough. You'll notice that the point value is the same as elite cavalry, but that's also because they're able to, you see they're flexible, we'll talk about that later, but they're able to, they do a little better overall, I think, for commanding and attacking and the like. And just one more final example here so we don't go on too long in the book here. Let's look at something, something with shooting at. Let's look at these skirmishers here. The skirmishers here, models per unit, only 6. Points value 2. Now, skirmishers, you can imagine, aren't too keen on attacking, so they're going to have a harder time to rush in and attack. And you also see here their moving is not so bad, so they can move around and attack all right. You can see here too that the shooting value, the order to actually shoot, isn't so hot either. Okay, 7 and up is I'm imagining some archers, I think it's a crossbowmen, have a similar value, but it's a bit harder to shoot than the archers. I think it's 6. Their courage isn't bad. I thought it'd be higher than that. But one thing for sure is that their armor is quite low. You just need to score basically 1 hit on these guys. I don't know if you have to beat it yet. We'll talk about it later, but we'll look at that. Points, they're cheap. You could field tons of skirmishers if you want. And their attack value is dismal. They don't have a plus. They're just rolling 6s to actually hit. We'll look at the shoot range stuff later. And then they can move quite far, those skirmishers, right? So I hope that just gives you guys a quick overview of basically understanding unit profiles. I put a little more time just in this because I think it's important to kind of grasp the difference between the attack, moving, and then the attack value and defense value. Especially, I think the other things are a little more, a little more intuitive. You can understand what they are, and then just look at some different units there in the end. So that's it for this video. We'll continue on the next one, and we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye bye.